A Happy Family Christmas. Chapter 1. It was the night before Christmas and the Johnson family was bustling about, getting ready for the big day. There were 7 of them in total, parents Tom and Mary, and their 5 children, Sam, Emily, Jake, Lucy, and baby Jenna. Tom and Mary were in the kitchen, cooking up a storm. The smell of roasting turkey and baking cookies filled the air. Sam and Emily were helping their mom with the decorations, while Jake and Lucy were setting the table. Baby Jenna was cooing and babbling in her playpen, watching everyone with wide, curious eyes. As the evening wore on, the whole family gathered around the fireplace to exchange gifts. Tom and Mary gave their children new clothes, books, and toys. The kids, in turn, gave their parents handmade cards and small gifts they had made themselves. As the night drew to a close, the Johnson family settled down to sleep, filled with joy and contentment. They knew that no matter what the future held, they had each other, and that was all that really mattered. And with that thought, they all drifted off to a peaceful, happy slumber. Chapter 2. The next morning, the Johnson family woke up bright and early, ready to celebrate Christmas. The kids were especially excited as their grandparents, Bill and Susan, had come to visit from out of town. Bill and Susan were thrilled to see their grandchildren and couldn't wait to spend the day with them. They had always been a big part of the Johnson family's Christmas celebrations, and this year was no different. As the family sat down to a feast of roast turkey, mashed potatoes, and all the trimmings, Bill and Susan regaled them with stories of Christmases past. They told tales of Christmases spent huddled around the fireplace, singing carols and opening presents, and of the time they had all gone on a snowy holiday to the mountains. The Johnson kids listened to their grandparents' stories with wide-eyed wonder, imagining the Christmases of yore. They were grateful to have such loving and wise grandparents in their lives, and they knew they were truly blessed. As the day went on, the Johnson family enjoyed each other's company, playing games, singing carols, and taking a walk in the crisp winter air. It was a day filled with laughter, love, and joy, and it was a day that none of them would ever forget. Chapter 3. As the day drew to a close and the sun began to set, the Johnson family settled in for a cozy evening at home. But as they sat around the fireplace, sipping cocoa and chatting, they suddenly heard a loud rumbling noise outside. At first, they thought it might be thunder, but as the noise grew louder, they realized it was something else entirely. Tom went to the window to take a look, and his face turned pale as he saw what was happening.
"Everyone, stay inside,"
he shouted.
"There's a wildfire heading this way."
The Johnson family's hearts raced as they realized the danger they were in. They had heard about wildfires in the area and knew that they could spread quickly, destroying everything in their path. But despite the fear they felt, they stayed calm and worked together to gather all their important documents and valuables. They made a plan to evacuate if the wildfire got too close, but they hoped and prayed that it wouldn't come to that. As the night wore on, the Johnson family waited anxiously, listening to the sound of the wildfire as it approached. But fortunately, the wind changed direction and the wildfire passed them by, leaving their home and their lives intact. The Johnson family was relieved and grateful to have come through the danger unscathed. They knew that they had been lucky, and they vowed to always be prepared for emergencies in the future. And as they settled down to sleep that night, they were more grateful than ever for the love and safety of their family. Chapter 4. The following day, the Johnson family was enjoying a leisurely breakfast together when suddenly, an argument broke out between the children. Sam and Jake had gotten into a fight over a toy, and before long, Emily and Lucy were joining in. Tom and Mary tried to calm the situation, but the kids were too worked up to listen. It seemed like the argument was only getting worse. Just then, Grandpa Bill stepped in. He had been sitting quietly at the table, watching the scene unfold with a wise and patient expression.
Now,
He said in a gentle voice,
there's no need for all this fuss. Can't we just talk things out and find a solution?
The kids looked at their grandpa, surprised by his calm and reasonable approach. They knew he was right and they didn't want to disappoint him, so they reluctantly agreed to listen to his advice. Grandpa Bill sat down with the kids and listened to each of their sides of the story. He asked questions and helped them think through the problem, and before long a solution was reached. The kids hugged and apologized to each other, feeling ashamed of their behavior. They knew they had let their emotions get the best of them, and they were grateful to their grandpa for helping them see the error of their ways. From that day on, the Johnson kids made an effort to communicate and resolve their problems in a more mature and thoughtful way. And they knew that they could always count on their wise and loving grandpa to help them see things from a different perspective. Chapter 5. As the Johnson family continued to enjoy their Christmas vacation, they were visited by their neighbor Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson was a woman in her mid-40s who lived next door with her husband and two teenage children. The Johnson family had always been friendly with Mrs. Thompson, but they didn't see her too often. She was the type of person who liked to keep to herself and mind her own business. But on this particular day, Mrs. Thompson seemed to be in an especially chatty mood. She came over bearing a plate of freshly baked cookies and a smile on her face.
"Merry Christmas, dear,"
she said to Mary as she handed over the cookies.
"I just wanted to drop by and say hello. How have you all been?"
Mary was a little surprised by Mrs. Thompson's sudden visit, but she was always happy to chat. She invited Mrs. Thompson in, and the two women sat down in the living room while the kids played nearby. Mrs. Thompson chatted away about all sorts of things: the weather, her family, the latest gossip in the neighborhood. Mary listened politely, trying to keep up with the conversation. As they talked, Mrs. Thompson fanned herself with a handkerchief. She was a plump woman with a round face and bright pink cheeks. She wore a faded floral dress that seemed a bit too small for her, revealing a glimpse of her ample bosom. Despite her somewhat eccentric appearance, Mrs. Thompson was a kind and friendly person. She genuinely cared about her neighbors and was always willing to lend a helping hand. The Johnson family appreciated her warm nature and enjoyed her company. As the visit came to an end, Mrs. Thompson stood up to leave.
"Well, I should be going,"
she said, gathering her things.
"I'm glad I could pop by and say hello. Merry Christmas to you all."
The Johnson family thanked her for the cookies and bid her farewell. feeling grateful for the unexpected visit from their gossiping neighbor. Chapter 6. As the Johnson family sat down to dinner that evening, they couldn't help but think about all the events of the day. It had been a busy and exciting day filled with family, friends, and fun.
I can't believe Christmas is almost over.
Said Tom as he carved the roast turkey.
It always goes by so quickly.
I know, right?
Said Mary as she passed around the mashed potatoes.
But it's been a great day. I'm so glad we could all be together.
The kids nodded in agreement, chattering excitedly about their presents and the fun they had had. Even baby Jenna seemed to be in on the conversation, babbling and cooing as if she understood everything that was being said.
It's been a great day, but it's not over yet.
Said Grandpa Bill with a twinkle in his eye.
We still have the rest of the evening to spend together, and who knows what tomorrow will bring.
The Johnson family smiled at each other, feeling grateful and blessed. They knew that no matter what the future held, they had each other, and that was all that really mattered. And with that thought, they all sat down to enjoy a delicious Christmas dinner, surrounded by the love and warmth of their family. Chapter 7. As the Johnson family finished their dinner and began to clear the table, an argument broke out between Sam and Emily. Sam accused Emily of taking his dessert before he had a chance to finish it, and Emily denied the accusation, saying she had no idea what Sam was talking about. Tom and Mary tried to intervene, but the kids were too worked up to listen. They were both convinced that they were right and refused to back down.
That's enough, both of you,
said Mary firmly.
There's no need to argue like this. We're all family, and we should be able to resolve our differences peacefully.
But the kids were too angry to listen. They continued to bicker and argue, their voices getting louder and louder. Just then, Grandpa Bill stepped in. He had been quietly watching the scene unfold, a calm and wise expression on his face.
And then,
he said in a gentle voice,
there's no need for all this fuss. Can't we just talk things out and find a solution?
The kids looked at their grandpa, surprised by his calm and reasonable approach. They knew he was right and they didn't want to disappoint him, so they reluctantly agreed to listen to his advice. Grandpa Bill sat down with the kids and listened to each of their sides of the story. He asked questions and helped them think through the problem, and before long a solution was reached. The kids hugged and apologized to each other, feeling ashamed of their behavior. They knew they had let their emotions get the best of them, and they were grateful to their grandpa for helping them see the error of their ways. From that day on, the Johnson kids made an effort to communicate and resolve their problems in a more mature and thoughtful way. And they knew that they could always count on their wise and loving grandpa to help them see things from a different perspective. Chapter 8. As the Johnson family gathered around the fireplace that evening, they couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment and joy. They had spent a wonderful day together, filled with laughter, love, and good cheer.
I'm so glad we're all here together,
said Mary with a happy sigh.
This is what Christmas is all about, being with loved ones and enjoying each other's company.
Here,
said Tom, raising his glass of eggnog.
Here's to another great Christmas with the Johnson family.
The kids nodded in agreement, sipping their cocoa and chatting excitedly about the day's events. Even baby Jenna seemed to be in on the conversation, babbling and cooing as if she understood everything that was being said.
Hey, do you guys remember the time we went caroling and Grandpa Bill kept singing the wrong lyrics?
Said Sam with a grin. The family burst out laughing as they remembered the funny incident. Grandpa Bill had always had a bit of a mischievous streak and he loved to tell jokes and make people laugh.
Oh, that was classic.
Said Jake, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes.
Grandpa, you always know how to make us smile.
Grandpa Bill chuckled, pleased by the compliment.
Well,
He said with a wink.
I've always believed that laughter is the best medicine. It's good for the soul and the heart. The Johnson family nodded in agreement, feeling grateful for their wise and loving grandpa. They knew that he always had a kind word and a joke to share, and they loved him for it. As the night wore on, the Johnson family enjoyed each other's company, telling jokes and laughing until their sides ached. It was a night filled with joy and happiness, and it was a night they would always treasure.
Chapter 9. As the Johnson family settled down to sleep that night, they couldn't help but think about the future. They had had such a wonderful day together, and they couldn't wait to see what the next year would bring. Sam, the oldest of the Johnson kids, lay in bed and gazed up at the ceiling, his mind racing with all sorts of possibilities. He had always dreamed of becoming an astronaut, and he knew that with hard work and determination, he could make that dream a reality. Emily, the second oldest, lay snuggled up under her blankets, dreaming of the day when she would become a famous artist. She had always loved to draw and paint, and she knew that with talent and persistence, she could make her mark on the world. Jake, the middle child, lay wide awake, thinking about all the sports he wanted to play and all the adventures he wanted to have. He was an energetic and ambitious boy, and he knew that with practice and perseverance, he could accomplish anything he set his mind to. Lucy, the second youngest, lay snuggled up next to her sister, dreaming of the day when she would become a famous singer. She had always loved to sing and dance, and she knew that with hard work and dedication, she could make her dreams come true. Baby Jenna lay fast asleep, oblivious to all the dreaming and scheming going on around her. She had her whole life ahead of her, full of endless possibilities and endless potential. As the Johnson family drifted off to sleep, they knew that they had each other to support and encourage them as they pursued their dreams. And they knew that no matter what the future held, they would always have each other to rely on. Chapter 10. The next morning, the Johnson family gathered around the breakfast table, excited to start a new day. As they munched on toast and sipped their coffee, they couldn't help but think about the future and all the dreams they had for themselves.
I can't wait to see what the future holds,
said Sam as he spread jam on his toast.
I'm so excited to become an astronaut and explore the stars.
Me too, said Emily, her eyes shining with excitement. I can't wait to become a famous artist and have my own art show.
And I can't wait to play all sorts of sports and go on lots of adventures,
said Jake, his eyes twinkling with mischief.
And I can't wait to become a famous singer,
said Lucy, singing a little song under her breath. Baby Jenna babbled and cooed, seeming to join in the conversation. The family laughed, imagining all the amazing things the little girl might accomplish in her lifetime.
I'm so proud of all of you,
said Mary with a warm smile. I know you can accomplish anything you set your minds to. You just need to work hard and never give up.
Your mom is right.
said Tom, ruffling Sam's hair.
You kids are the future and you have so much potential. I can't wait to see all the amazing things you'll do.
The Johnson family smiled at each other, feeling grateful and blessed. They knew that they had each other to support and encourage them as they pursued their dreams. And they knew that no matter what the future held, they would always have each other to rely on. Chapter 11. As Christmas came to a close and the Johnson family said goodbye to their grandparents, they couldn't help but feel a little bit sad. They had had such a wonderful time together and they didn't want it to end. But they knew that life goes on and they had to return to their normal routines. Tom and Mary went back to work, the kids went back to school, and baby Jenna went back to her playpen. But even as they went about their daily lives, the Johnson family couldn't forget the joy and happiness they had shared over the holiday season. They remembered the laughter, the love, and the special moments they had shared, and they knew that they would always hold those memories close to their hearts. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, the Johnson family looked forward to the next Christmas, when they would all be together again. They knew that no matter what the future held, they had each other, and that was all that really mattered. And with that thought, they all went about their lives filled with hope, love, and joy.